A lot of you are familiar with some of these diagrams from MindOS. Like, I can do these so fast almost at this point that it'll take no time at all. Anger in the middle can be caused by hurt on this side, or your needs not being met on this side, which means a lack of well-being. And I'll cover this again in detail if you need. If we do nothing with our anger and we're passive, it becomes sadness or depression. If you make a decision with your anger, all decisions we ever make are either going to be destructive or constructive, or they weren't decisions after all. If it doesn't have a destructive or constructive impact on you or others or both, then it wasn't a decision. The destructive word for anger is aggression or violence. Which causes more hurt to you and others, more anger, and you loop around. The constructive version of anger we call assertiveness, which just means I get my own needs met without hurting others. And every time you do assertiveness, you fill up your tank with more well-being. So that's the anger map from MindOS. And there is a correlating anxiety map where loss causes anxiety for us on the one hand, or a lack of confidence. On the other hand, once we're anxious, we can either do nothing and be passive. And when we are passive with our anxiety, it likes to drive us into doing impulsive things, just to kind of burn the anxious energy or avoid things. And that's no good for us. Addictions fit down here. Or we can make a decision about our anxiety, and we can think before we act, and we can think destructive with our anxieties and worries, or we could think constructive with our anxieties and worries. If we think destructive, that's called masochism. And that doesn't mean sexual per se. It just means you beat up on yourself. You say, poor me, boo-hoo, poor me. Or we can do the only way out, which is constructive thinking with our anxiety, called courage, defined as just do the right thing. Every time we do courage, we fill up our tank with more confidence. Okay, so that took me like 7 minutes. That's the E equals MC squared of psychology expanded. Okay? And we can go back to both of those diagrams and explain them again, explain them more. You're familiar with them if you've seen MindOS. The idea being that these are the two types of self-esteem. Well-being and confidence are the two types of self-esteem. Self-esteem is happiness. I've never known a person who is chronically happy, generally happy, who had low self-esteem. And I've never known a chronically depressed person or anxious person that had very high self-esteem. So clearly self-esteem is the same as this thing we call happiness. But it's also the root of what you would call friendship. It's the root of what you would call love. It's also the root of what you would call value. Okay? Have you ever thought of that concept? Value? What makes something valuable is simply, it gives us a certain amount of happiness. My first car cost $500, but it was worth way more than $500 of happiness to me. It could take me here and there, and it was freedom. It meant freedom, okay? Way more than $500 worth of value. So value is how happy we make people, okay? If I don't make you happy today, very happy, then I'm not that valuable to you today. So I hope I make you happy by way of being, really brainiac. And I hope you like being brainiac. It makes you happy.